Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Kemley. Our next guests are the team behind the sexy, funny, weird Untogether. We have writer-director Emma Forrest and sisters who play sisters in the movie, Jemima Kirke and Lola Kirke. Everybody, round of applause. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah. It's gonna be all right.
I've detached just enough.
That's usually how I like people to talk to me, just detached enough. Emma, let's talk about where this movie came from, when you started writing it. This is your directorial debut, right? Mm-hmm. So where did this story come from?
Can I just say, first of all, sexy, funny, weird. I love that description, and it's also the great Lost TLC album.
Oh, sexy,
I think.
sexy, funny, weird.
Yeah.
Lost
The follow-up
like,
to
member
Crazy,
of
Sexy,
TLC.
Cool.
Like, there was sexy, funny, weird.
Awkward. It came, look, the beautiful thing about being a writer is that you can always go into a room and write. You know, I'm constantly amazed that directors and actors are able to get through their lives because you can't just go into a room and act or go into a room and direct unless someone gives you money. So I had written a book called Your Voice in My Head that was being turned into a movie, and it collapsed in pre-production, and my survival technique for that awful feeling when that happens was just to write the next thing. And this was the next thing. I had just met the man who would become my husband, and
Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out why this thing that was meant to be a one-night stand didn't feel like it was over, and that's where the script came from.
How did you assemble this amazing cast?
Well, actually, you mentioned Ben. Ben had done an episode of Girls with Jemima, and we met. And am I imagining it, or did we connect?
Ben played my dad on Girls, which was the first time I met Ben, and then Emma came to visit on set, and that's the first time we met. It's funny that he started off playing my father, and then this sort of
became your quasi-love interest.
My
yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really loved about the film, without trying to say this without giving anything away, is you set up all of these bad decisions for these characters to make, but you also kind of create a world where they might be too good to end up following through on these bad decisions, which is sort of a nice misdirection, I think.
I feel like it's quite an optimistic film for all the melancholy sort of coursing through it. We were shooting it during the election, and you know, the day we had to come,
positive time.
The day we had to come back to work, you know, after that happened, I just felt so grateful to be making what's essentially a love story. You know, it is an unusual film, and it's hard to pigeonhole, but it is a love story. Both of these ladies have really interesting romantic arcs in the film, and it just felt like a tiny piece of protest to make a film about people trying to be good. It's like trying to study up on how do you become a good human being.
It's really about these two different periods of times in relationships where it can be really hard, like a long-lasting relationship where there's a fissure and you're trying to figure things out, and the beginning of a relationship where you're like, where is this thing gonna go? And who are you? And do I really like who you are? And how do we figure each other out here? What was it like for the two of you to work together? Had you guys done anything together yet? Excuse me?
We did an episode of, I remember this morning, Lena Dunham's web series called Delusional Downtown Divas. This was like 10 years ago.
Oh wait, I remember that show. Was that like
it was
her?
Really
was
funny.
that what was that on? Like Nerve.com or something?
The internet. It was on YouTube.com. But yeah, we played a pair of art-making British sisters. Yeah, we were called the Side Bottom Twins. We were sort of your sort of socialite English sisters that make art for the last 3 weeks. We've been making art. Wait, the line was, we've been making art forever. Oh no, we've been making art for weeks now, and since we were children. Yeah, since... Anyway, that was our first time working together, and then we did this film together, and it was, I mean, I think that you're always trying to, as an actor, create a context, because typically you don't really have one with the actor that you're working with. So it's quite amazing to get a full history that you don't have to, like, you know, personalize or anything. And it's also very intense to be working within that context.
Intense how?
Well, you know, if I was late, she'd said something about it. If
she did not mind
she was
saying
burning
anything
incense in her trailer, I said something about that. You know,
I feel like one is more offensive.
You know, it's debatable because incense is, you know, it's not for everyone.
I think that everybody enjoys the smell of a forest in Northern California, Jemima.
Right.
And that is the smell of the incense I like.
Lola has a really personal trailer. She makes it really personal. She pins up things and.
So there was a lot of
incense.
Context to apply to the scenes. It seems
Yeah.
like.
Well, for me, I just liked I just liked seeing my sister every day at work, which was nice because you know work is kind of lonely and scary, and you know, and it's nice to have not just a friend, but to have your sister there. And but other than that, I just really felt like it was a nice thing for me because I felt like Lola was just became my co-worker in the moment when we were shooting it. She just became my equal that I saw as another professional. I expected it to be more cathartic, but for me it wasn't so much. It was more. It was just nice on a personal level to be like, we're working together. You're good. You're good at what you do.
I had no idea.
Nice move. Nice
way.
choice there. Yeah.
I'm so
kudos. Yeah.
Was that kind of a new feeling, considering she's done so much work on her own since the last time the two of you, kind of worked together in this web. You worked together in this web video.
I love it. It's like he's rubbing it in. Since she's worked so much before you guys worked together.
It really wasn't, but that was really.
Since it's
she's really
interesting because she's
sensitive.
worked so much. No, it was. I never worked with. I mean, that side bosom twin thing was silly. That's just like us at dinner, you know. But so.
Jemima and I also worked together in a way that I didn't know we worked together when she surprised me by directing a music video for one of my songs. She asked me if she could do that, and I was like, I really don't want a music video for that song. And then a week later, she borrowed the keys to my apartment, forgot to give them back to me. I was locked out for 2 days. But then she had shown me this music video that she made in my apartment, and it was like the most beautiful, perfect.
I was like, can you send me the raw track to that song that you don't want a video for?
You made a video in her apartment? Was it just like a
I said I
POV of
needed
you
it
like
for like
touching all of
work
her
or
stuff?
something, like whatever.
Smelling
She
all
gave
my
me
clothes.
the keys, and she said she was like, no, this song in particular, I don't want a video for. I was like, cool, send me the file, and because I just want to hit like, I lied. I said there's a movie that wants your song in it. That's why I said give me the raw file.
But she ended up making this really beautiful music video that I thought was so effective. So I guess that's it was really nice to see that we could work together even without my consent.
Is that video available anywhere? Is that on YouTube?
Crossing
Yes.
boundaries. And
Completely crossed my boundaries, but
respecting
it
each other's
works.
boundaries, yeah.
Sometimes, not listen. No.
That music video is available
On
Is that what you're
YouTube.
asking? On YouTube.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure
just
people could
Google
see it.
Jemima Kirke. Jemima Kirke.
Don't Google Lola.
And then
Google
maybe-
Jemima Kirke.
Yeah, it'll come up eventually.
Emma, I love the cinematography of the film, especially the scenes between Jemima and Jamie and the blue and how kind of neon blue that looked.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind that? It's really beautiful and also very distinct.
Thank you so much. Well, that's the great cinematographer Autumn Durald, who also did Palo Alto. She's very, very good at making small independent films look more expensive than they really are.
And also bold choices as well.
Yeah,
really
and
land.
look, it was my first film, and it was so incredible that I found someone to whom I was able to say, I sort of have this dream inside my head where it looks like this. Can you put it on the screen? And she's like, yeah, I can do that. And she could. I think, to me, I get very frustrated when a screenwriter makes the transition to director and it sort of looks like an episode of Law and Order. Law and Order's great, but it wasn't what I wanted it to look. I
know exactly what you're saying,
there's great writers where I just feel like, why did you direct? Was it just because someone said? It sort of like, when George Bush sort of had the presidency because he sort of could. It's very strange to me. Whereas you get someone like Alex Garland, who obviously with Ex Machina transitioned from writer to director and has such a distinct visual style. So I wouldn't have had the chutzpah to do it if I didn't think I had something to add visually. It can't just be the words, otherwise you shouldn't be directing, in my opinion.
I can think of a director from last year who's a very well-known writer that people love, and I saw his movie and I was like, why did you do that?
I saw that movie and I know the movie.
You know what movie I'm talking about?
Of course I do, because you look at that and you're like, you knew you had to film in a law office for 2 weeks and that's the office you chose? Like,
Can we just keep going with this until we can just keep out random clues to see what it was? Also, the one thing about that movie as well is that, you know, one of the last movies where he worked with a great director, it was clear that that director knew when to cut things out and to leave things in.
Yeah.
And there was something about this movie where it was like, there's way too much information here that is unnecessary, and I'm way ahead of the movie still.
Well, I should say, actually, I began my writing career in journalism, and the really good lesson I learned was I'm completely unprecious about cutting things, because I was so used to, like, you'd spend your heart on writing this column that meant the world to you, and they'd just like cut a paragraph, and I had a decade to get used to that. So now I do it by myself before anyone can do it to me, and you have to. They say it to you all the time when you're making your first film, is that there's the film you write, the film you film, and then the film that happens in the edit. And they really were distinct, and you have to be unprecious about it and be ready for it to change.
And it's so much harder than it sounds as well. Like, it's not...
I've heard it's hard. For me, it was really easy because I had this discipline of just knowing that sometimes you just cut and it you know, the famous story is the 4.5-hour version of Apocalypse Now that contains some of the best things that Coppola ever shot, the Playboy bunnies and all of that, but it sort of stops the film dead. So you do just have to be prepared when you're directing to give up things that are very beautiful and that you love.
The sequence in France in the Apocalypse Now redux is like the most boring thing in the world. What was it like working with your husband, Ben Mendelsohn, who's one of the great actors?
Right, but you know, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but it was more intense than that because we were in the process of separating while we were making it. No, that's totally fine.
This movie was like Fleetwood Mac rumors
this is where, you know, they were working on their relationship, we were working on our relationship. No, it's completely fine. Google it.
I never Google relationships before these interviews. I'm so sorry.
No, the thing is that
it works out to my benefit.
And we were like,
it brought us back to the fact that we had fallen in love with each other essentially because of our work. You know, I had seen him in Animal Kingdom, and then he read my book, Your Voice in My Head, and before it even started, we just loved each other's work so much that it was when we knew we were going to separate.
I didn't mean to laugh. It was just Animal Kingdom as the reference point to start a relationship.
A very specific kind of
that is incredible.
Woman.
That guy. That guy.
Yeah. So we were able to come back to the thing that we had loved about each other at the start, which was the work. And, you know, he gave me the respect of staying on this film because he believed I deserved to make the script. And he is incredibly beautiful in the movie. I'm sure there are things that he was processing about what was happening. What was a joy for me is that I got to write scenes where he had to say things in arguments that I had said to him. So there's a scene where he and Jemima are arguing on a bench, and he says, "You're doing the walk of shame," and she says, "I don't feel shame," and he says, "You should, it's a very useful emotion." Our most constant fight during the marriage was that he said I made him feel ashamed, and I'd always say, shame's useful, you're right to feel ashamed. So to force him to say my side of the argument, like, you can't get a better divorce settlement than that. Like, I could have just taken that and walked away, you know, and been happy. Yeah, so thank you, Jem.
You're welcome. I mean, it was...
Well,
you haven't asked this question, but I'm going to answer it. Which is that, how is it to work with someone who's written a character sort of loosely based on them and then have them direct that as well? Well...
You've had that experience with...
I know, but I'm not playing Lena.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not playing Emma either, but there was a sort of mentality, or there was sort of behavioral things about the character I played that were Emma. Mm-hmm. And it was really nice to just have Emma as a reference and just look at the way she sits and the way she talks, and you know, and that, and then also be acting with her husband. That's weird. Like, that is really weird, but it was useful. I mean, I wish every job was that sort of generous.
Any questions? You can just be like, oh, that.
I've got another one for you.
Got it.
No, I don't.
What was it like doing these? I'm so bad at questions like this. These steamy scenes with Jamie Dornan. That's my best Us Magazine impression.
I'm so excited to be asked that question.
Are you really?
I didn't realize that would be. So all the tweets.
They're really sexy. They're really sexy.
Thank
scenes.
you. And all the tweets came out, and they're all about Jamie Dornan, right? Like everything's like Untogether. Can't wait. Jamie Dornan. And I'm like, oh my god, he's a megastar. He's such a megastar. And so I tweeted recently. I was like, go see this film. I'm in between the shots of Jamie Dornan, and I was like, there are some girls that are like this is like a fantasy to be, and it's. I mean, he's really professional. The first sex scene we did was like, went right for it. There was no awkward like, hey, how so what'd you do last night? Like
He's an old pro at them now.
No, he was like, right, down to it. It was like really. I was like, I'm in good hands. So that, I mean, it didn't. It was unremarkable because he was, just he had a lot of practice. And so he made it really unawkward.
I'll say, this is going to sound like a kiss-assy compliment, and I don't mean to make you feel uncomfortable, but you call him a star. And when I was watching the film, I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she was commenting on you most of the time. I was too, and we were both saying, God, she is a star. Look at how amazing she is in these scenes. Like, you really carry those moments, and you are in such a vulnerable position in those scenes. And there is a weight and a confidence that is radiating off from you in those scenes that very few people can have that. You have it as well in a lot of scenes as well. Excuse me.
Thank God you said that.
I don't want to get into a sisterly conflict here.
No, it's fine. I've come to accept it.
That's really nice of you. You sound like my mother in the best way. And my mother said the same thing. Yeah. So I believe you. But wait, I want to
Oh, you wanted to answer to that.
You said earlier that I've been dying to address because it's important. And you said something about, characters making bad decisions, and that is something that girls, also addresses. But one thing I love about Untogether, as opposed to girls, is that I think that Emma doesn't write these bad decisions as bad decisions. I don't think there's something very unjudgmental about them. There's no right and wrong with Emma's writing, and I do think that sometimes with girls there is a clear, like, she was doing badly and now she's on her way to doing okay, like as if there's a definition of what doing well is or not doing well, or what's a bad decision, what's real love, what's fake love. Like there is, like, we know the difference. There, we don't. And you could say that this is that the character Andrea is, doing really badly, and that at the end it's hopeful. Maybe not. We could finish. I liked that at the end of this movie, it could finish, and they could have a huge fight and not
at the bottom of the
hill.
Yeah,
no, it's for me, and this isn't how Emma read it at first, but I played Andrea, so I took it this way. Was that it was like have people seen the movie?
No.
Okay, well, sometimes in movies, characters get what they want, and that's the biggest tragedy. But it could be the biggest tragedy, or it could be hopeful, depending on what you see as bad, I mean, some people judge that as like, we shouldn't get what we want, we should get what we need, and I don't know. I think at the end they get what they want, and that's good and bad.
Right. I mean, I would say the nation's sweetheart, James Comey, is an interesting case in point of someone who, like, the guy always thought he was doing the right thing. Like, that's what he was trying to do.
But I like that there's no such thing as
an allegory for the current.
It is now.
Okay, great.
No, I don't want there to be a right thing or a wrong thing or bad behavior, good behavior. It just is behavior. And then that the ending needs to be something that says that we're going to change.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. Unless we're telling a story that's supposed to, that's supposed to do something. But realistically, there's no ending to anything.
People always have, blips of change and then also fall back into the bad habits, and blips of change and fall back. Mm-hmm. I think what I really was drawn to, especially by the time you reach the end of the film is that everybody went through a minor experience in the grand scheme of things, but a major experience for them. And yeah, the outcomes could seem like a happy ending, but they're clearly not the end of these stories.
No, sorry, go on.
No, I don't think it completely follows like the 90-page story structure, which is very much platonic storytelling, which is very much mirroring the male orgasm.
Right.
Which is that at the end, everything has climaxed, and then there's this blank slate, and there's some big change. And I think that is really problematic because it does require that films become kind of moral tales in some way. And as you were saying earlier about wanting to see characters that don't necessarily to want women characters to be strong, but also like that we should be able to see weak women on screen as well. Maureen Dowd wrote a really great article after Gone Girl came out a couple of years ago that was like, why does every woman on screen have to be a good example? That's quite boring.
I really appreciate in the films and the books that I love incremental optimism. Yes. I'd like just a quantum of solace. You know, that's enough for me. You know.
I also, since it is a love story, I also appreciate when movies don't tell you or stories don't tell you what the difference between what's real love, like what's actually being in love versus it's all it's sort of an illusion, or you're only in love with them because it's a circumstance. Or I like when a movie respects the fact that two people are in love regardless of whether it follows our definitions of like supportive, healthy love. Yeah. And sometimes it's not supportive or healthy, but you're still in love. And, yeah.
Let's get some questions from our audience. Who has a question?
Hello. Hello. I was just wondering what each of your favorite scenes were in the movie.
My favorite scene is to film. I liked the one where Lola screamed really, 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 really loud at the top of her lungs.
That film was cut. That
scene was cut, which is not why it's my favorite. but I liked it because it was a really. I mean, watching it was a really. Did you keep the part where she kicks me? I kick her.
You kick.
She kicks me in the vagina. DVD special extras.
Oh yeah, there's a I think it got cut where I kick her in the vagina. That was fun. We got to do stunts, Lola.
We get to do stunts. I also actually burst a blood vessel on my vocal cord from screaming at my sister.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to say that.
So loud. And to this day, I am suffering the consequences of that, which proves that your anger really only hurts yourself.
And the scene got cut.
And that was a great day when I had to let Lola know that scene had been cut.
Next question.
Hi. I just noticed cool tattoos on your arms.
Thanks.
I was just wondering if there was time before or during the shoot to how much collaboration there was, or to like work on the script or the characters, and since it's an indie film, if there was any time in between, like during shooting, to develop the characters.
Not really, right?
I mean, yeah, it is. It does.
We knew each other.
Changes. There's thing. Wait, you mean like collaborate on the how the script evolves and changes?
Yeah,
like,
and maybe just discussing the characters.
Let her answer that.
Yes.
I don't know. But yes, I think it does. Emma has one of my favorite qualities in a director, which is that she actually listens to the actors, maybe opinions or choices or thoughts, just something, because we are delivering your story for you as the writer or the director. The actor is, so they're going to have some agency. We actors are going to have some agency, and so Emma does really take seriously my times where I'd say this. I don't know how to say this line as Andrea, or why is this line here? I remember one particular time I said, "Why is this line here?" And you go, "Because it's beautiful." And then I was like,
"Was I right?"
Well, you were right, but I didn't. I am so heavy-handed. I didn't know how to say it beautifully. Remember, you couldn't get me to say something sweetly. Remember, I was supposed to say something sweetly to Lola, and you were like, if you don't fucking say this.
No,
nicely.
I remember that you couldn't hug her. I remember that you're this incredibly amazing, complex actress, and when I asked you just to lean over and hug your sister, you literally turned into Eric Hartman and like went sideways off the screen. Like
You are
this.
such a Cartman.
So there was, I'm like, oh my God, intimacy. Like,
But I will say, to what Jemima just said, you know, Ben is an incredible actor, and when I actually asked him about, well, why does he think he's so good? He says, I just listen. I listen to the other actor. There's so many actors and actresses who are considered great, who when you watch them, they're just waiting for their turn to speak, to shout. And when you watch Ben with Lola or with Jemima, he's actually listening to what they're saying. He's not just waiting his turn. And I tried to take that note and carry it through the movie, you know, as a
Best
director.
thing a director can do.
Right. Yeah. Listen.
Next question. I think we have time for one more.
So I have a family question. Not did you ever have an accent and lose it, but there's a third sister, and
She has a Chinese accent, actually.
okay,
It's
and
very strange.
If she can get past that accent, is there any thought that the three of you would ever do anything together? And if that's opening up a can of worms,
Domino
just don't
doesn't
talk
really.
about it.
Domino's got her own business. She's a.
She's a wonderful musician, and she's
And
also a doula.
Yeah, I don't think she's in. Yeah, this is.
I think she'd probably be a pretty good actress, though.
Yeah, but I don't think she wants in. You know, I don't think she's like, I want to be in a movie with you guys.
I
Like,
don't know. I don't know. It would be kind of cool to do that. Have three sisters ever played three sisters in a movie before?
I don't.
You could do Chekhov, obviously, right?
Could do the three sisters.
the what?
I know who I'd be.
Congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. Your performances are wonderful. It's fun to watch the two of you banter on stage together.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It is at the Tribeca Film Festival right now. And
Tonight
then
and every day this week.
tonight and every day
Yeah,
this week. And
yeah.
afterwards, people can check it out.
Yeah,
They will be able to check it out.
they will be able to.
Everybody give them a round of applause. Let's hear it.